I mean, this is a terrible story about Lois Cardinal, but is that the basis of the policy? Did you consult with experts on this? Because the medical experts in your province are saying they were not consulted on this. But I guess, which experts did you consult? Did you just read what other countries are doing? Like, who wrote this policy and in consultation with whom? I understand that, but you don't want to cut experts out of important policy decisions either, right? So I'm just wondering, which experts did you consult with? Who sat down with you as you were drafting these regulations? I mean, like, clearly a lot of work went into the communications of it with the video, but it's unclear to me who you consulted with.
And I think that sentiment is really understandable to a lot of people who are listening. But my question was whether you had any evidence to base your policy on, specifically as it relates to kids under 18 in Alberta who are doing top surgery without parental consent. Because we asked your health ministry, for example, they were able to tell us that 26 Albertans in 2022 and 23 in 2023 received top surgery, those who are under the age of 18. But Alberta Health doesn't track whether those surgeries are related to gender identity or for medical reasons like cancer or breast reduction due to pain. So are you basing it on a concern of what will happen or actual evidence of what is happening?
A concern of what will happen, because...
But are you preserving the choices for kids? Because you're, again, now saying that you don't actually have evidence to support the position you've taken. You're just worried about what could happen. And aren't you removing the choice of parents who do think it's okay for their kid to get that surgery at 16 or 17 years old?
We've allowed the medical profession to make a lot of decisions without scientific evidence, and that's why I'm a bit concerned.
The medical profession is making decisions without scientific evidence? Aren't they making them exclusively based on scientific evidence?
I wish that were the case, but...
Even if their parents offer consent? Like, even you're willing to say that the parents who offer consent for their children to go through these procedures should not have that right?
Well, I would say that the person who should make the decision is the person who's going to live with the consequences of it. It's not up to a doctor, it's not up to a parent, it's not up to a politician, it's up to that child. And it's not up to a politician.
But you can't get surgery at that age. I think you're presenting it as, okay, you could start taking hormone blockers once you've gone through puberty, which are specifically supposed to be designed so that you don't enter that stage. But you can't get surgery. I mean, what you have proposed here is very specifically that kids under 18 will not be able to get that surgery.
Correct, and that has been the practice in most jurisdictions, not to allow surgery that will end the reproductive... In Canada, there's no jurisdiction that
for bottom surgery.
For bottom surgery,
top there is.
And I guess that's the question.
And a parent can't make that decision on behalf of their child.
No, I don't think that anyone can make a decision about what the reproductive health should be, except for a person who's going to suffer the consequences of having regret. It's not up to a politician.
Do I interpret from that you are not open to any changes, regardless of what you hear from the people who will be most impacted by these policies?
Well, look, I've been consulting widely on this issue for a long time. Yes.
Have you opened yourself up to the criticism from your opposition, and from federal Liberals as well, that this is primarily about doing well in your leadership review and satisfying a certain aspect of your party, given, to be fair, the lack of evidence you've been able to present even during this interview about why you pursued this policy?
Well, I've given lots of evidence. You can reject it if you like, that's fine.
But you have been lobbied by the super conservative flank of your party, by Take Back Alberta. One person wrote on social media how this was a victory of sorts for them, and they noted that a meeting that they had taken with the chief of staff for the education minister. Again, I understand the anecdotes. I understand the sentiment, and I think a lot of parents listening do as well. We want to protect our kids 100%. But if it isn't actually a problem, if there isn't a huge uptake of these surgeries, if you don't have the data to tell Albertans this is the problem I'm actively solving, then again, why wouldn't your critics say you're doing this just for political reasons?
Well, you look at the New York Times article that came out a couple of days ago. They say 10% of kids detransition, 20% stop transitioning, It's 30%. And if that's the case, that's a big failure rate. And that has a huge impact on those kids' lives. I don't want a single child to regret the decisions that they made or feel like they made them prematurely. We want to make sure.
We don't know if there's a single one that's done it in Alberta.
I think that what you're trying to imply is that this hasn't been a conversation for the last number of years. It has. They've closed down a Tavistock clinic. The Tavistock example is one where I think they've had 9,000 kids go through, and they don't do long-term tracking of what the results are. That's part of the reason why the Tavistock clinic was closed down.
In the case, though, of Tavistock, for example, it's not going to close until March 2024. The closure was delayed. And in its place, there will be 2 other regional clinics. They're not outright banning and going as far as you plan to with your government. So why are you relying on them and that example to back up the point that you're making or the policy you're pursuing?
We're not banning anything either. We're just
banning gender-affirming surgery for kids under 18.
Well, that's